Hello and welcome to episode 8 of Show Me the Podcast. As always, I'm joined here by my co-host Harry.
Hello.
And today we have a very special guest known as Luke. Say hello, Luke.
Hi guys.
So this week we're going to discuss one of cinema's great auteurs, the 48-year-old Texan film director Wes Anderson. Anderson brings us films such as The Grand Budapest Hotel, The Darjeeling Limited, The Royal Tenenbaums and many more. We're going to pick a film each and discuss them, as well as throw in a little bit about Isle of Dogs.
Cool.
So Harry, what is your film of choice?
My film of choice is The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou.
I like that film.
And what about you guys?
I've picked Rushmore.
I think we don't need any more than that, do we?
I'll just go.
And Luke, what about you?
I have picked Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Oh, yes.
Jealous.
Okay, so just to warn you guys, the sound may sound a little bit different as we are testing out some new equipment, and the mic setup is just a little bit different. You also might get a little background noise because we've got the door open because it's a lovely summer May day. Okay, so before we get into it all, let's hear a little bit about our special guest, Luke. Tell us about yourself.
So, obviously, Harry, you know me because
I do.
used to be your boss.
Yes, just tell everybody that.
In a previous life, and now I'm not your boss and haven't been for a while, and we still talk, so that's
I
a
know.
really good sign.
Bonus.
So, I have known Harry for about 3 or 4 years, and I'm really proud of you
Really?
guys, actually.
2.
Is it 2?
2.
Wow, it feels like
It
longer,
feels
doesn't
longer, yeah.
it? Feels like so much longer.
I've known her 10.
All right.
Not as a competition.
Well, I love this. I'm feeling the love.
There's so
You've
much
gotta make you
love,
feel
there's so
good
much
about yourself.
competition, and I've known Lorraine for about 15 minutes, so I can already feel
Half
the
an hour.
friendship blossoming. See, it feels longer, doesn't it? Always feels longer. So yeah, I'm really proud to be here and join you guys, because I remember we was talking about this a while ago. It's just really exciting to be a part of it today.
Cool. Yeah, we're happy to have you here. It's been a while. I've been talking about having you on it for a good long time.
I think we decided when we were drunk.
Yes, I wasn't going to tell everybody.
By all
that.
means, if you want to follow me on Twitter, I can share the videos
No.
which invited
Oh yeah,
me.
no, but we thought about it before we got drunk and then decided when we were drunk.
Yeah. If any of you guys follow us on Instagram, you would have seen the Isle of Dogs thing that Lorraine and I did.
I thought it was I thought she was talking about that she loves dogs.
Yeah.
So I was telling her I love dogs, and
She
she
felt
kept on
like
saying I love dogs, and I was like, yeah, I love dogs. What?
Yeah,
I don't.
Harry doesn't love dogs, she hates all animals.
Well, she's not a big animal person, so I wondered why she was kind of going on about it. It was like I thought she'd like connected with me on a different level.
Let's get this straight. I like animals. I just
Yeah, but you don't love them. You would never say I love dogs.
no.
You know, so hence my confusion.
As we have done with special guests in the past, we give them the opportunity to give us a rundown of their top 5 favourite films in life so far. So Luke, go for it.
This is really hard, actually choosing your 5 favourite films.
We know, we've
because
been
5, yeah. Is it 5 best films? And I even have this recency bias. I really want to put Get Out or Baby Driver in, but then I've only had them in my life
Harry
about
put
a
Baby
year.
Driver in.
I did.
I know, and I've only had it in my life a year, so how do I decide if it's going to be my favourite film? Because that's the film you always revisit and always feel comfortable watching for me, so I had to have a slight recency bias, and nothing in the last 5 years could even possibly make it, I think.
Oh, no.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
But my first one is High Fidelity, it's a 2000 film directed
choice.
by Stephen Frears.
What else? Sorry to just butt in. What else has he directed? Because that name rings a bell. I really want.
That's a really good question.
Oh,
Something recently, isn't it?
yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
Sorry, we'll
I'll tell you
come back
what,
to
we'll
that.
come back to this.
Go for it. Tell us about it.
So John Cusack plays the lead in this role, but it's really about music and about people's relationship with music, and I think that's why it resonates so strongly with me. It's also the breakout film for Jack Black. I think a lot of
When
people...
he sings at the end.
He sings at the end, it is brilliant.
Oh,
but
my
just throughout
God.
this film, he is
Yeah.
the Jack Black we like from the School of Rock,
Yeah.
rather than the Jack Black of Gulliver's Travels and King Kong remakes. It's exactly what you look for.
I don't remember that bit.
At the end, when he sings "Let's Get It On."
Yeah.
Nothing really
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's so good.
It's like that, but in key.
You can go now, Luke. I liked you, but I don't anymore.
But that's one of my favourite films.
Okay.
And I think it's because of that attachment to music, about playlisting. There's some wonderful lines in it.
Oh, I believe the Stevie Wonder song. I heard that from that film, and I love that song.
Yeah, great soundtrack as well.
Yeah.
Brilliant soundtrack.
And I love
Stereo
John
Lab,
Cusack.
I hate
Beta
John
Band.
Cusack.
It's such a
Yeah.
good soundtrack as well. So great film. And that is what I would call a sort of rainy day film for me. It's the sort of film you get to when it's not a day like today, but you just want to curl up and have something that you can reminisce and feel nostalgic about.
Cool.
And speaking of rainy day films,
Yeah.
it brings me to number 2,
Oh.
which is Singing in the Rain.
I like what you did there.
1952, directed by Stanley Donen, who was brilliant, and Gene Kelly, of course, who actually gets a directing credit on this.
I didn't know that.
Every day's a school day, guys. Every day's a school day. It co-stars Debbie Reynolds and Donald O'Connor, who is the best of them all for me. If you've not seen Make 'Em Laugh with Donald O'Connor, then that is by far my favourite scene in the movie.
Is he the one who does all the kind of like
The acrobatics.
comedic? Yeah, I seen a documentary on him actually, and he's amazing. I didn't know about him. I never thought of him because I always think of the other two with this film. But I saw that and I was like, bloody hell.
He's phenomenal. He
Yeah.
is
He doesn't
the
need to
most
say a word.
talented in that sense,
No.
in many regards. He is.
Make
It's
'em
such a beautiful-
laugh.
Make
You just
'em
made me
laugh.
think.
And there are so many great songs in there. Moses Poses, obviously Singing in the Rain, which everybody knows, Good Morning. And it's just something you can watch over and over and over and over again and never get bored of. And I think that's what a favourite film is for me.
I agree.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a favourite film for me.
True that.
Silence of the Lambs. Just
And what's your next one?
Duck Soup, Marx Brothers film from 1933.
Oh, okay.
It is, for those of us who likes Marx Brothers films, there is a certain tone to them and a certain humour that you get with them in general, but this one speaks really loudly. It is Groucho's Rufus T. Firefly and his fictional land of Fredonia. You have this combination of this slapstick humour, the one-liners, but it still resonates really strongly. This was a film which was made as satirical about the Third Reich's rise in Germany. And people don't see that, but when you watch it now, and without getting too political, there are parts of it you feel resonate in terms of what an autocracy and what dictatorship looks like, and it still works as satire.
Okay.
And good comedy for me always has a bit of a punch to it. It's always
Yeah.
got a bit of a purpose. It feels like it's important.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I could watch Duck Soup over
yeah,
and over again.
I'm a Marx Brothers fan, I must admit.
Moving on to your next one.
My next film is The Social Network.
Interesting choice.
Yes, it feels very relevant at the moment, doesn't it? So much about Facebook in the news. But as Harry knows, I am a little bit of an Aaron Sorkin fan.
Yes,
I
yes,
might be a
yes.
huge fan of Sorkin right away from things like Sports Night on the TV side to Molly's Game more recently. But this, I think, bringing David Fincher in was the key here. This is a
Yeah.
well-directed, well-scripted film.
Yeah.
Not perfect in any sense, but again, excellent performances. And for people who love Sorkin, this feels like the film you were waiting to have, where it tied all of those elements together. And it's out on Netflix this month, isn't it?
It is, yeah. No, I'm thinking of something about Aaron Sorkin, and I cannot for the life of me, remember what it is. Because I saw him in something recently.
He's directed Miss Sloane. He did Molly's Game.
Molly's Game.
Sorry.
It's driving me nuts.
They're both really good films. Miss Sloane was a great film.
That's right.
And your final choice.
It is The Artist
Okay.
from 2011, the most recent film. I think I saw this at the cinema 4 times, in very different places as well. And
Wow, I don't think I've ever seen a film that way.
I've never seen it.
I think it's
good
such a cinema film. I was lucky enough to see it at the Electric Cinema. Oh, was it the Electric? In London, in all places, and an independent in Newcastle. It's a beautiful film. It's directed by Michael Hanzavicius, which is difficult for me to pronounce. Jean Dujardin stars Berenice Bejo, who is just absolutely beautiful and married to the director. So there's some wonderful turns in it from people like John Goodman and James Cromwell, who I know that you love from Babe and the likes of.
Yeah.
And
love
the
John
dog Uggy, who steals the show. The dog is brilliant. It's actually worth watching for the dog acting alone.
There's a
I
dog, Lorraine.
kid you not. But there's something beautiful about it. So Georges Valentin is the start of silent movies, and his journey towards these talkies comes in. In that respect, it's quite similar to Singing in the Rain's plot in some regards.
Okay.
And Berenice Bejo plays an upstart dancer who is going on to be a star. But there are beautiful touches throughout this movie. If you like cinema and appreciate the small touches, you will find joy. If you like musicals or classic 20s cinema, you will enjoy so much of this. And the score is
Is it a musical?
Ludwig Buss. It's not a musical as such, but it's very musical. It's a silent movie, so it's completely scored for the entirety of it. And it's a smart film, it's a beautiful film, and it's just something I could just watch over and over and over again.
What year is that?
Came out in 2011. Won the Oscar that year as well.
Oh, it did, didn't it? I must have a look for that, because I actually wouldn't mind seeing that.
Yeah, I've only seen that actor in The Wolf of Wall Street, the main guy.
Dujardin.
Yeah.
Dujardin.
But he's good.
He's brilliant. He's in quite a few films. He was also in what was that World War II heist movie with Matt Damon and George Clooney, which came out a few years ago.
Something Men.
Yes, Something Men, but that's not going to help us much.
I know when you're
Monument Men. Yeah, it was about this art. He was in that, I believe, as well.
Okay.
But a lot of his work is still in French cinema, so we don't see quite as much of him here as we should.
Interesting choices there. Yeah.
They were, actually.
I need to go back on those and check out Duck Soup and The Artist for the first time, because I've never seen those.
Oh, I thought you had seen The Artist.
No.
Oh, right.
Okay, so in the past we've just sort of gone on to listeners' comments on the podcast, but we've actually decided to call this section the Cheers Ears section. Oh, thank you.
Harry's been saying the term Cheers Ears for years.
I have, and I'm not ashamed of it. Okay, so Lorraine, what was the first one?
This one was from a person called Poppets,
Nice
who
name.
said, great chemistry between the two girls, love the Tim Burton episode and so looking forward to more.
That's nice of him, or her, thank you very much. Jimbo messaged us on Instagram and said, easy day listening to you two chatting about film. Love the singing. Well, thank you.
Well, I do have a beautiful voice. Yeah, has to be said. In my head I do anyway.
Cool, okay, so
Yeah, there's a little question that we kind of wanted to put to people and to ourselves through. I saw a trailer today for Beetlejuice 2 and I thought it looked really different to Beetlejuice. It didn't look anything like the original, you know what I mean? And it looks quite dark. And then Harry informed me that apparently this is a
fake
trailer. So we were kind of wondering, like, it pissed me off when I heard that, to be honest with you. I was really annoyed.
I could sense in the tone.
Yeah, well, why do people do it? It's like so pathetic. So, you know, we were just wondering how people feel about that, the fake trailer. Because I was really excited. I thought, this looks really weird and different, but it's still Alec Baldwin's there, Gina Davis there. But I didn't get how it was going to work because I thought it just was too different, if I'm honest with you. But
I watched it thinking, oh, yeah, cool,
Yeah.
you know, it's out. And
I
then
was looking forward to it.
I noticed that, you know, bits had been taken from, I think it's a video game, and, you know, there were bits from the original film, which you don't tend to do. And then it just kind of got me mad, because I'm like, well, why do people make these fake trailers? And it was just, you know, it was a sad moment for us.
I wonder, is it the studios doing them to get some sort of attention?
I don't know. What do you
It's a
know?
really good question, actually, and I'm glad you've only said it twice as well, because the third time you said Beetlejuice. Oh, it's it's a really good question. I think it probably differs depending on who's making it, because you could feasibly have somebody who just loves a brand, say Marvel, for example, and they just cut pieces out of love for the series. They weren't intending to mislead, and that could very easily happen and be adopted by someone as a fake trailer.
Yeah.
I think it's probably a case of working out what the individual is trying to do, but also people just like views, don't they?
Well, this is it. I think this is it, because this person had put official trailer 2018.
Yeah.
And
Oh, in that case, they're dead to me.
Yeah, it was official trailer.
yeah. But do you think they're beneficial for the system in creating buzz, or is it a negative thing?
I think it's a negative thing.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to have the trailer, have the actual trailer. Do you know what I mean? Even if they put on it, if they did a trailer and put, oh, I'd love it if they did something like this. Do you know what I mean? Fine. You know what I mean? Or this is how I see it going. Fine. But not,
but just
this
to
is what it
blatantly lie.
is. Yeah, to blatantly lie, yeah.
There's also a question mark about if you use the word official. I mean, let's just
Yeah.
hope you're not too easy to track down by your IP address, because that's illegal. So.
Dun, dun, dun.
Uh-oh, sorry person who put that.
No, we're not sorry.
No, we're
You
not.
deserve
Yeah,
everything which
We
is
don't
coming
want
to
him to
you.
go to jail or her.
No, we do.
Harsh.
Yep, but fair.
Okay. So the general consensus is we think this is bad, and please can you stop doing it?
I'll rot in jail.
All that.
I don't think you should rot in jail, but I think you should be told off in a stern fashion.
They're sending you around.
Yeah, you don't want Luke around there.
No, you. Okay, so let's move on to the main topic of discussion today: Wes Anderson movies.
Or Wes Anderson.
Wes Anderson. So we sent out a message on social media. If you don't follow it, why not? Anyway, moving
Do it
on. Yeah. And we questioned what was your favourite Wes Anderson movie, and we actually had quite a bit of feedback. Not saying that was a surprise, we have that a lot, but it was just nice.
It was mainly me who was surprised.
You'll come to understand why throughout the programme,
Yeah.
I'm sure. So the first one that came through was from Chris, and he said The Darjeeling Limited was his favourite film. He says the film builds character and enables connection between the spectator and the film. One becomes engaged in a story that questions issues of goodwill, good intention that explores personal, collective morality without ever allowing it to hold up to the narrative. Similarly to the Life Aquatic, where Anderson turns his attention to familialism, but again questions issues of humanity.
It's Chris Maloney, hence the big words.
We went to uni with this guy. He's very...
He's a smart guy.
Yeah.
Sorry, he's probably got his head is exploding right now.
Sesquipedalian.
Whenever you speak to him, I feel like I need to carry around my dictionary.
Well, have you met Luke?
You probably would get on really well with him, actually. He's a nice guy.
I would, but I don't love Darjeeling Limited, so we might not.
I've never seen it then. Sorry, I know we shouldn't really be doing a podcast where I haven't seen all of it. Well, no, that's not true.
It's not on that.
No,
Yeah.
I'll save you. I'll do a recap for you afterwards.
Okay, thanks. So, two more correspondence.
We've got Steve B, or Stevie B, whatever he likes to be called. Steve. The Grand Budapest Hotel is the only one I like. Oh, okay. Wes Anderson is usually a bit twee for me, but that film gets it so right, mostly because of Ralph Fiennes' performance.
Oh, he is.
He's brilliant in everything.
He carries that
I
film.
love Ralph Fiennes.
He's just so funny. I'd never really seen that funny turn in a guy.
He has a little
His
bit of that
performance.
in Hail Caesar, doesn't he? Would that it were so simple.
I haven't seen...
Have you ever seen him in Coriolanus?
No, but I
Am I
want
saying
to.
that right?
He directed that.
Coriolanus.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Heavy.
Oh god, yeah. Yeah, I've watched it, but Jesus, you need a brandy or something after it.
Okay.
It's really heavy.
And during.
Yeah.
Okay, Stuart P says the Fantastic Mr. Fox is probably the best effort at capturing the spirit of a Roald Dahl story. Love the gentle style of stop motion animation, especially when you're being bombarded by CGI, but haven't actually seen Isle of Dogs yet, so that will probably be my favourite when I actually see it. On another note, he's probably responsible for keeping Bill Murray relevant, and thanks to Rushmore and Zizou, and also that H&M ad was pretty cool. I don't know what he's on about there.
H&M ad?
Yeah.
No, neither do I.
Ooh.
But
We'll have to
I have
Google
no
that,
interest in fashion. Look at me.
That's not true.
Tara Lara. Fantastic Mr. Fox. The animation is so cool. George Clooney is perfectly voice cast, and there is a constant stream of genius lines you can only catch from repeat viewing.
She's so right.
She is so right, yes. But we'll get to that. And the final one is from Tom's... No, sorry, not final. Penultimate one is from Tom Straw. Gotta be Rushmore, surely. Even if it's just for the soundtrack alone. The Royal Tenenbaums was also an awesome film. Much prefer the emotional impact of his earlier work to the slip in self-parody and style over substance of his later films. Just saying.
Interesting.
Would still never turn down the chance to see any of his output, though.
And we had some people that just didn't give a reason but wanted to shout out their favourite films. So we had Page L was the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Cinematographic Life, The Royal Tenenbaums.
Super Stew 83, the Royal Tenenbaums.
And Dithin Bottle. Rocket, Grand Budapest Hotel and Royal Tenenbaums. Well, that's not just one dude.
Bottle
that's
Rocket.
three. Bottle Rocket.
Royal
I do
Tenenbaums.
apologise, that's a typo.
Royal Tenenbaums seems to be popping up a lot there.
I think that's quite a cult classic, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
I
I
think-
did like that.
I think it's probably his most popular film for people who aren't Wes Anderson lovers.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be a lot of people who love that film. It's a really good film.
Yeah, we had a house party a few years ago and it was movie themed. And a few of the people rocked up with their sort of the Tenenbaum style.
Just go for the sort of
costumes.
Luke Wilson style tennis player for me.
Yeah. So bringing it back outside of the Wes Anderson briefly, we kind of do a segment called What Have You Watched Lately? And I'm going to start off and say I've watched Cruel Intentions, which was a real blast from the past.
I love that film.
It's so
That's such a
good.
film.
Let's not forget there is a Cruel Intentions 2 and 3.
There
is
is,
there?
yeah.
I knew there was a 2. I didn't know there was a 3.
I think I've seen 2.
You don't need to.
Okay.
No, no.
Oh yeah, I just forgot how good it was. I mean, it's just no one is likable in that film, but you still just great soundtrack again. And I watched Paddington 2 and I sobbed. I mean, I did have really bad illness going on whilst I watched it. It probably didn't help my emotions, but yeah, you should watch that. It's lovely. And finally, I watched Avengers Infinity
So did
War.
I.
So did I.
I think everyone has, haven't they?
Should we do with spoilers now? No. Okay, no spoilers. Okay.
I have had some really varying responses. Well, your Lorraine, I'm pointing at Lorraine here. Your feedback was very different to mine.
I wasn't a huge fan, but I don't know, was that because I wasn't a huge fan or because the whole way through next to me I had 2 drunk guys mimicking whenever someone does a deep voice,
totally ruin
it did. Like,
really can.
like, this isn't a huge spoiler, but the 2 Chris's were doing the deep voice. They were trying to mimic each other. They did it. Peter Dinklage, they did it. Every time when they did it, and like
they messed with the Dinklage.
Oh, they big time.
Oh, okay.
Just a spoiler that he's in that film.
Oh, he's been doing like the red
Oh,
carpet.
okay, that's fine.
But and when something amazing would happen, they'd be like, yeah, and their hands would go up, and they kept on getting up for drinks, and it was just, and I just turned around to them. I says, mate, just give me 10 minutes to watch a bit of the film.
Oh,
and he just went like this, and he just cowered down in his chair.
But no, I think you should say something because
Absolutely, it's the kind of person who would make a fake official trailer, isn't he? That's who he is. That's who that is.
That's who did it. And then as soon as it ended, literally, because we all stayed for the credits because we wanted to see what was at the end, he and his mate just legged it. They literally ran out the cinema. So yeah, so I'm going to watch that again at home, and I will give my real verdict then, because I do love, but I must admit, Thor was just the best part for me.
he was amazing in it.
I think there's a lot where you can get a lot from watching that again, but I think my overwhelming opinion was I was entertained. And I think that's what you're looking for with a Marvel film. Do you want to come out of it thinking, that felt like it was an hour long, even though it's a lot longer as a film? I think that's what I valued about it.
What I value about it is, and I'm kind of proud of myself is that I think the Russos and all the people who put this movie together did it ever so well in that I didn't feel like it was a strain to remember certain aspects. I got certain Easter eggs. It wasn't hard watching in terms of trying to remember the whole universe. So it was,
but there was
for the
a
fans,
lot,
but not for the super fans in a way. It valued people who've watched it.
There was a lot going on though.
There was, but I managed to keep up with it all, and I struggle sometimes.
I'm really proud of you.
Thanks. But overall, a really good watch. So if you can get to a cinema where there aren't knobheads, do it.
Yeah. My next one wasn't a film. As I've mentioned before, I'm big into true crime, serial killers and all that kind of stuff.
Really?
So, just on occasion. So I went to a talk in Bristol with an ex-copper who worked for the FBI, and he did a talk about serial killers, and he sat and literally, sorry, I nearly fell off there. He sat and he discussed all the big heavy hitters, like of who he spoke to, Kemper, Berkowitz, Manson, do you know what I mean? Harry's looking at me, who the hell are these guys? But all the big serial killers, Dahmer, Jeffrey Dahmer?
Yeah.
No? Okay. Well, all these big serial killers, Eileen Warnes? No? Okay.
Sheep Monster.
Yeah. Woohoo! Harry knows one!
Not to make it.
Now I'm proud
But
of
it
you.
was just, it was just interesting hearing like him talk about them in a way that you've never read. Do you know what I mean?
In what way? Give us an
Well,
example.
for an example, Charles Manson. Do you know who Charles Manson is?
I do.
Okay. Well, Charles Manson, whenever you saw him on TV, he was always like this massive, crazy-eyed character. But basically what would happen is people would wind him up, apparently, to be this person. And then when he went into Harrison, he went into Harrison, he was all like, the same. And Harrison wasn't having any of it. He's like, oh, well, I'm not here to do this. And as soon as like all the cameras kind of stopped, so to speak, he kind of calmed down and just sat and chatted to him, and he come out with something about, he was talking about his mum, and then he finally come out and said something like, Jesus, I really didn't have a chance, did I, when I was a kid, because his mum wasn't good.
Right.
But it was just like he completely changed from what we all saw.
So it was all a fake persona. But
Yeah, well, no, and don't get me wrong, the guy was mental, and he was, but like a lot of it was
still alive, isn't he?
No, he died there recently. Well, couple of years ago, I think it was. But he was crazy. He had to be for what he bloody did. But it was just interesting hearing, this different side to him. And the same with Eileen Warnes, that almost made you feel especially her.
Yeah.
I feel like with her, had people minded her, looked after her as a child, I don't think she would have done any of that.
Yeah,
I really don't think she would have. And even a lot of people say that. They think she's a product of how she was
raised.
Do you know what I mean? But no, it's really, really interesting. Like, and just hearing it from someone who's actually sat there with him. And this guy, he sat there, he told, like, his father was a copper.
Is he like Mindhunter?
No, all that's bull. He's like, all that stuff is bullshit.
Oh.
He says, you watch it. He goes, none of it's like that. He goes, I'm sorry. He goes, I get brought onto sets. He goes to, consult, and he goes, they don't use anything I say.
I don't think it sounds like a talk for me.
No, but it's just really interesting.
Yeah, I can
I'd
imagine.
highly recommend it, especially if you're into that kind of thing. But it was really interesting. But anyway, the other one was Annihilation.
Oh yes,
That was really good.
It was really good.
I had to watch it though. You know the way some films you kind of put them on and you kind of do stuff in the background.
Yes, yeah.
I had to watch that, but I thought it was really good and a great all-female cast and well, obviously there's a few men in it, but the main.
An absolutely great shout out to the sound editors on that as well.
Yes.
I wish that I'd been in the cinema. It's such
Yeah.
an interesting
I know,
discussion,
yeah.
but
Yeah. They thought,
That
I
was
read that
perfect for
apparently
cinema.
they thought it was too intellectual to put into the cinema.
I think it got a release in American cinemas, didn't
Yeah,
it?
it
And
got
then
some, but
it
then
got
they thought
limited.
it
Well-
was too intellectual.
I read it was Paramount freaking out because Mother, Darren Aronofsky's
Mother with exclamation mark.
Yes, bing.
Hated that film.
I haven't seen it. I just don't think it's up my street either. But yeah, that was a Paramount film, and they were scared that because that hadn't quite had the reception that they wanted.
From me.
They were worried that Annihilation would have a similar thing over here, and so they put it on Netflix. But that's just one theory.
I thought it was good.
I thought it was
and
fantastic.
visually
Good film.
stunning. Like, oh my god, when they show it at the start, and you're just like, I want to go there.
I wasn't so in favour of the a sequence at the end. I won't say what happens. There was another scene with a sort of different character that doesn't get involved in that much, and it's just haunting. And I was lying in bed in the dark, and I could just imagine it next to me, and it scared the shit out of me. And that hasn't happened to me with films in a long, long time.
I thought it was great. It should have been in the cinema, most
Yeah.
certainly. And I think there's quite a few scientists I know who are really pleased that it actually did science and biological and chemical sci-fi, but in a way
Yeah.
which was, whilst it was aspirational and not real to us, it was actually really well done. They all really bought into what it was trying to do, and I think that authenticity
interesting.
comes through the actual script itself.
Yeah. Cool. Good watch.
And just my last one, I've watched Shrek, all the Shrek films, all the Shrek cartoons about 1 million times.
How many Shrek films are there
There's
now?
4 Shrek films, and then you've got Scared Shrekless and a Santa one, and there's loads of them, and I've watched them all 1 million
I
times.
watched Shrek Forever at hers. I actually enjoyed
Are
that.
they all Mike Myers? Are they?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Cameron Diaz and Eddie Murphy, yeah. They're good films, but I've watched them probably about 20 times in the past few days. 'Cause
They're really good
just
films.
ongoing.
Like,
Yeah,
certainly the
but yeah.
one that I saw. Because-
Donkey. Sorry.
Sorry, Sean Connery playing Donkey.
A bad Sean
Oh,
Connery at
bad
that.
Sean really bad Sean Connery.
Whatever. And Luke, what have you been watching
Yes,
lately?
Luke.
I've been a few films recently, actually. After the conversation we had about favourite films, I went back and watched OSS on We Set, which is Cairo Nest of Spies. It's a 2006 film. It's OSS 117 for those of
So I
us
was
who want
like,
to go
that's
down
not
that
what
way.
it says in the notes.
Again, it's directed by Michael Hanzanavicius, starring Jean Dujardin, Berenice Bejo, so we are talking exactly the same group who made The Artist.
Okay.
This is a continuation of a series of OSS films, which is a 50s, 60s French cinema group, which is a bit of a James Bond parody, is probably the best way to put it.
Okay.
But it's beautiful, and it is really true to the era it's representing. It is funny. Obviously, it is subtitled, so comedy always sometimes is a bit of an adjustment when it comes to subtitles
Yeah.
because you see the punchline before you hear it. But it's certainly something I'd recommend. There's 2 films which they've done in the OSS series, and it's really fun.
But you speak French, so didn't you?
A little bit, yeah.
You lived in Paris.
So yeah, a little bit. Not as well as it needs for a film, I
Yeah.
must say. I've also seen About Time recently.
Oh, I love that film.
Richard Curtis.
I don't know if I've seen that.
Oh, it's so lovely.
It's so
It's
lovely.
so lovely.
It's a bit of an underrated film for me. I
Yeah.
think when you consider his back catalogue, and it's a third time we spoke about. It's the
We
third
did.
time that Rachel McAdams has played a time traveller's wife, and in none of the films has she been able to time travel herself.
I mean, that's a bit mean, really.
What a weird way to get typecast. And it also uses Into My Arms by Nick Cave, so it's worth watching just for the use of that wonderful, wonderful song. Love and Mercy I caught up with recently, which is the biopic of Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys fame. It splits between the recording of Pet Sounds, their influential album, where Paul Dano plays Brian Wilson, and he is...
Oh, I know what you're on about now.
It is phenomenal. Paul Dano is one of the best around right now.
He's super creepy, but he is good.
Yeah, creepy can be really good, though, I think.
Yeah.
And he just has his presence, and those scenes are worth watching for it alone. The second half, which isn't split in half, it flashes backwards and forwards, is going through a period later in Brian Wilson's life, played by John Cusack. Second time he's got mentioned today. Elizabeth Banks plays his wife in that situation, and Paul Giamatti is his carer. Now, I'm not going to...
Such a good actor.
Such a good actor. You won't love him in this.
Oh.
But I won't spoil the story for people who don't know Brian Wilson's story, but there's a lot of tragedy in what happens to him after the Beach Boys fame. But it's a brilliant film and certainly worth watching. And obviously, you know we're going to get a good soundtrack when you've got Pet Sounds underscoring the entire thing.
There's a connection between the Beach Boys and Charles Manson, you know.
Is there?
Because Charles Manson was a musician and he met Dennis Wilson from the Beach Boys and stayed in his house, and Dennis Wilson had to kick him out. And that's when the murders started.
So you blame the Beach Boys?
No. But yeah, there was a...
For legal reasons, no.
No, yeah, it's his
We are
fault.
not
No, of course not.
blaming the
But
Beach
no, there's a
Boys.
big... check it out. But there's a big connection there.
Luke looks absolutely gutted.
Dennis Wilson
I was about
had
to go to a really
nothing to
happy
do.
Let's go to the happy film.
Yeah, let's say literally Much Ado About Nothing, which seems really flippant right now. But yes, I watched the Josh Whedon 2012 version of Much Ado About Nothing, which...
I'm on the fence about wanting to watch that because I love Joss Whedon and I love Much Ado About Nothing.
Yep.
But I love the Kenneth Branagh one so much.
I do like the Kenneth Branagh one. I think it stays true to the script throughout the most part. And for anyone who is a fan of Joss Whedon, whether it be Buffy or Angel or anything else, this
Never
cast
really
feels
seen them.
entirely familiar to you. It's Nathan Fillion, Amy Acker, Alexis Denisov. It was filmed in his own house. His wife designed the house and they filmed
really?
it for 10 days in his own house in black and white. And for that reason alone, it feels really like an amateur production of Shakespeare done by people who really aren't amateurs.
Okay.
And Much Ado is one of my favourite Shakespearean
It's
plays.
the best.
It's incredibly funny. Beatrice and Benedict's relationship is ridiculously good.
Yes.
I mean, it actually is one of the rare films where you feel like Shakespeare was writing for a screenplay rather than he was writing a play.
Yes, that's true, actually.
And it pulls it off really well. So I'd certainly recommend it if you're a fan of either Shakespeare or life.
Or life.
And also, of course, saw Avengers Infinity War, as we've talked about, and I Love Dogs.
I love dogs.
I love dogs. We have to admit something, don't we, Lorraine?
Oh dear. I think I know what this is.
The whole sort of concoction, the idea behind this was because I Love Dogs was coming out, and we thought, yeah, let's get on that. Let's go watch this. She loves dogs. I love Wes Anderson, and we were drunk. We sent messages to Luke, and we're like, let's do one.
That sounds terrible.
We're like, let's do one on Wes Anderson, and we'll go see I Love Dogs. And Lorraine and I have failed to see I Love Dogs.
I did watch a lot of things on YouTube about it, though.
To be fair, it's only been about 7 weeks. So
I tried to see it this week, and then it wasn't in the cinema.
I have a
was
child.
Like, no. I think I'm clued up on it though, and I've seen, as Lorraine said, bits.
I'll be really interested to know your opinion from the 2-minute trailer.
No, I watched other bits. There was other bits on YouTube.
Yeah.
Were they
that.
official?
I watched the making.
It's probably nothing to do with it.
So we can't really talk too much about that.
I can.
But that's why we brought you, Luke.
Okay, so that was it for recent watches. Let's get into the main bulk of it.
Off you go, Harry.
Okay. Wes Anderson.
Where's Anderson?
Okay, Wes Anderson is a Texan director, as we mentioned earlier in the podcast. He came into light in the late 90s with films like Rushmore, and even Scorsese said that he was the new Scorsese.
Really?
Yeah. So
They both wear glasses. I think that was where Scorsese was getting at there.
His parents were artistic, one of them being an advertising expert, and his mother was an archaeologist. He had brothers that loved the idea of exploring and adventure, and he often made up adventures with these brothers. In high school, he began his love of movies, watching Star Wars and Hitchcock movies, where he learnt the real role of a director. Air quotes.
Air quotes.
I actually did them as well. He also met one of his leading men, I'd say, in his films, Owen Wilson at college.
He met him in actual college? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think Bottle Rocket was something of a college project, which is why the Wilson brothers are in it. So
I've not seen that.
it's really good.
I think we're going to get along with it. He lived with Owen Wilson and his brothers for a few years, and yes, then they went on to make films together. And he also spent some time, and I think he still lives in Paris as well.
Who, Wes Anderson?
Yeah,
Oh. Yeah.
but he lived with another one of his regular actors, Jason Schwartzman, in Paris for a time. And I think from there we'll go on to the first film we're going to discuss in this segment, Lorraine.
Rushmore. Let me just find it. Okay, so Rushmore was back from 1998. It was an Anderson and Owen Wilson collaboration in the forms of writing it. And also it was filmed in Anderson's hometown of Houston, Texas. And
Goodness me.
I thought you were saying that about what I said. I was like, it's not that interesting.
She has a weird reaction to Texas, doesn't she?
I'm sorry, you guys didn't hear that, but the listeners will hear the sound of that horrendous motorbike that just went past. Apologies for that. Sorry, Lorraine. Go on.
As I said, it was filmed in Anderson's hometown. And basically, this film is said to be based on Anderson himself, the main character, Max.
I did read that.
There's a little bit of it
Fisher.
in there. You can sense it, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, I don't know much about Wes Anderson, but like, you know, when you say about the way he was about films and stuff, because in this it's like all his time is spent not doing schoolwork. It's more about plays. Like he does this big production of Serpico, but they're such massive actual productions. You're like, how would you get away with that within a school? Like, but that seems to be what he spends most of his time.
So what's the film about then?
Right. So basically. Sorry, it's just that Luke asked the question.
Sorry.
Well, Atno said something and then it made me think of something. Was that
you?
you? We're just playing Luke, yeah. So basically, the film is about a 15-year-old boy, Max Fisher, who is played by Jason Schwartzman.
He's 15.
He's 15 in it, yeah. And so he goes to this prestigious Rushmore Academy, and he's basically this underachieving student. Sorry, I know he's based on Wes Anderson, but extremely annoying. But then I suppose 15-year-old boys are. And he basically spends more time doing extracurricular activities rather than his actual schoolwork, which gets him into all sorts of trouble. And then, like I said, what he likes doing is doing these plays. And a big part of it is he falls in love with a teacher played by Olivia Williams.
And she's absolutely brilliant in it as well.
Talk
She's
New York to me.
fantastic in it.
From Friends. That's what I thought I saw. And she is actually really good. But I must admit, I did think that, like, you know, if you hear about these like inappropriate relationships at school, like a teacher should shut it off, and I don't feel like she does.
No, but at the same time, she is almost the sane glue for the insanity of every single person who seems to go to Rushmore Academy or teach there.
Are they all quirky, eccentric types?
A little bit what you might call Wes Anderson-y.
No, but I thought, like, the whole way through, I just thought that, I mean, there were some moments where she, you know, kind of lets loose on him, but you know, there was a lot of moments in it where I was like, you need to be a bit more direct about this. But he was also, he had this absurd amount of confidence, and it was like he thought he was in a relationship with her the whole time.
Most certainly, yeah.
It would literally like go, no, I don't want you, and he's like, yeah, okay, you do. And it's really weird.
Is that not
and
disturbing though? Or
no,
is
it is.
done in a,
No, I think it's quite creepy actually.
I think it's...
From his point of view, not hers.
Okay.
He's
Yes.
creepy.
I think there's
Yeah.
something very clever that Wes Anderson does when it comes to borderline inappropriateness, not just in relationships but in general, but because everything about Wes Anderson's world is a little bit off kilter, it's a little bit off beat, it's a little bit weird. It doesn't feel as weird because it's in a Wes Anderson world. It makes sense and rings true to those characters, so it feels familiar. And then you go away from this film thinking, wow, that's really not okay.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's really inappropriate. I mean, like, if that was going on in real life, you'd have to do something about it.
I think that's something, having studied sort of for this podcast, that I particularly noted in a few of his films, is that a lot of it is inappropriate.
Most certainly.
But he gets away with it.
I suppose there's that line, isn't it? And he doesn't probably fully cross it. Do you know what I mean?
Actually,
it's very close.
We could bring that round to Isle of Dogs, even though I haven't seen it. There's lots of controversy over it because of its portrayal of Japanese culture.
Well,
the few little bits I did see, I thought to myself, yeah, they're not coming off very well here.
That's a really interesting conversation, I think, certainly about Isle of Dogs. I think the inappropriateness, which happens in Royal Tenenbaums and other things, I think you absolutely hit the nail on the head, which is he somehow gets away with it in those cases because that's not a discussion of cultural appropriation otherwise, which seems to be where Isle of Dogs is coming from.
Yeah.
But I think that slightly off-kilter thing is normally offset by this fact that the protagonist normally seems naive. There's a real naivety to his leads, and therefore that's why you forgive them, because you don't think it's coming out of any position of malice. You think they're just not in the real world.
Well, he's 15, and like I was in love once when I was 15, and you're going to kill yourself because if this person doesn't love you back, when really, when you think back to it now, you kind of laugh at it.
Yeah.
But I laugh at it.
It's still scarred, Luke.
I'm still scarred.
I remember his name though, which is the funny thing.
Yeah, I found my diary recently from when I was 15. None of that is going on this podcast.
Maybe we can make a film out of it.
I didn't love anyone when I was 15.
Yeah, I did.
Sad times.
His name was Tomas.
Tomas. Not Thomas.
Tomas. Yeah. It was in Ireland. It was when I was in Ireland.
Oh, okay.
Is that an Irish name?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he falls in love with Olivia Williams, Rosemary Cross, the teacher, and one day a character called Herman Bloom comes in, who is played by Bill Murray. Now, Bill Murray, they kind of say that this film is the film that kind of revamped his career, because he basically, when you think of Bill Murray, you think of Caddyshack, you think Ghostbusters, Stripes and films like that. Comedy actor, it's very obvious what he does. When you see him in these films, I would have never in a million years. It's like when Lost in Translation came out, and you're like, because he was in that, and you're like, really? Do you know what I mean? But he actually does it really, really well.
He's very good.
He does it really well.
Was Lost in Translation before or after?
After. That was about 5 years after.
Yeah,
basically.
Sofia Coppola. Yeah. So they're like, I think he started in about 8. He started in about 8 Anderson films. Do you know what I mean? So he's
in all 9 of them, isn't he?
Yeah. He's a bit of a Johnny Depp to Tim Burton, I suppose, isn't he?
Yes.
Just thinking.
Great eyes.
So he basically comes into it. He's like this really rich guy, and Max kind of like, wants him to be some sort of mentor type guy. And then Herman then starts to fall in love with Rosemary. And it's this weird thing where they're like playing for her affection, but obviously one of them's 15, and they start doing these really quite mean things to each other. Like at one point, Max bloody cuts the brakes on his car. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? So they do all these things to try and like get back at each other while trying to win the hand of this thing. But I think Max is quite psychotic in the way he carries on.
There's a wonderful juxtaposition of Max, who is 15 but wants to be seen as an adult, in his blazers he wears, and the way he talks like he thinks a 40-year-old man would do. And then there's this childishness of Herman Bloom, who comes in with Bill Murray, who is he's much more senior, and yet he gets dragged down to Max's childish level as well. So you see that going throughout in this composition for Olivia Williams' character.
Okay.
Yeah, no, you were saying about the blazer. I noticed when I was watching it, in a lot of the scenes, he's in a blazer and all the other ones aren't. All the other students are just in their blue shirts.
Right.
And there's a lot of this, because he does a lot of this like centre frame cinematography, and it's like he's always smack bang in the middle. And like at one point there's like him walking down, and there's like, these... there's like 2 either side, and then he's sat at these desks, and there's like all of them around him. So it's like, it is like he's trying to portray himself as someone completely different to all the other his peers basically around him. Like he's nothing like, they all look very young and boy-like, whereas he doesn't. And I think that's because of the way he carries on.
Yeah.
Like you said, he's trying to think of himself as being like this older man, you know, because he really doesn't understand for the life of him why this teacher does not want him. He doesn't, when she says it's because of age, or saying, like, he doesn't think it's because of age. He doesn't think that's anything to do with it.
I think he says something along the lines, I thought that might be a concern for you, actually.
Yeah, but
it's
he
not.
doesn't. Yeah, he just doesn't. And it's more than anything, it's bloody illegal. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's just, like, to be that deluded, like, when you're...
I think that's the echo of the Wes Anderson, is the
Yeah.
person who feels like a misfit, wants to stand out,
Yeah.
and will frame any behaviour, good or bad, as being simply quixotic and different and quirky. And I think that's where the echo is. Let's not assume that Wes Anderson fell in love with a teacher at 15, but I think that's where it's his not quite fitting in around him and feeling like he was an older soul in a younger body.
Yeah. No, definitely.
What did you think of the film, though? Because as someone who's relatively new to Wes Anderson,
I be honest with you, I don't remember if I've ever saw it, or I don't remember if I saw it and just don't remember it, because that happens to me sometimes. I do watch films and I completely forget them.
Yeah.
Elizabethtown.
Oh God, is that Orlando Bloom and Kirsten Dunst? Yeah. So with this film, I'll be honest with you, I don't know whether it's because I wasn't in the mood, because I feel like it's one of those films where you have to be in the mood to watch it. I didn't particularly enjoy it. Like I did end up watching Fantastic Mr. Fox, and I was really jealous that I didn't pick that film. But Luke did, so tough on me.
Spoiler.
But yeah, no. So, but with this one, because you know the way he's big into his like center shots,
Yes, very much.
I find those shots in search. I didn't with your film, but I find them with this film. I find it quite. I don't know what the word is. Like they're invading my space, but not in a nice way.
Oh right, okay.
Like, you know it's like it's too full on in my, like I feel like, you know, I can't get away from it. Like they're looking at me,
encasing you.
Yeah, you know when you see a picture and the eyes follow you around the room. It's kind of like that, and I didn't like it because he does weird me out. Like
it's sort of even
Max in this,
even though you haven't got you don't often get the close-ups. You don't get like you know the lower down shots of anybody. You know those kind of more. I don't know what the description is, but you know,
it's those transient shots you don't even notice.
Yeah.
That you are noticing.
Yeah, with his films, with his shots, they're kind of like you say, they're very centered. You do feel trapped. You feel like you're in a box. You are literally in a box with them.
That's where you look at the plays that he puts on in Rushmore, and there are plays put on in Isle of Dogs. There are plays put on in other films of his as well. He has this real recurring theme of plays. Moonrise Kingdom being the one where it's really quite obvious as well. A play, you go and you sit there, and there is a centre stage where the lead person is talking, and there's a stage left and there's a stage right. And that's kind of, if you look at his films, that's what you're looking at. You're looking at a stage where you are suddenly seeing centre stage, there's a symmetry, there's a set, and everything around it is important. That framing is really important, and as important as the character in it. And that's what a play is. So I think he actually feels a little bit more like a playwright who's been given a movie budget.
That's interesting.
And a lot of his being so dialogue heavy, actually, you can imagine it actually working quite well in a nice set.
I find it, if I'm honest with you, when it's in the middle like that, like especially when it's just one person, so to speak,
disconcerting.
I can't see what else is going on. Because apparently this was a technique that Kubrick also used as well. And I like Kubrick films, but again, they're films, like, apart from A Clockwork Orange, which I've watched and I cannot watch that film again. It's so bloody disturbing.
That's dark.
Yeah, it's really dark. But with this, I don't know. I find it quite hard to watch. I feel like I have to watch them.
Uncomfortable viewing.
Yeah, but like with Fantastic Mr. Fox, I enjoyed it, but it still had that. But maybe it's because they're cute little foxes, like, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. And like, because of the way I am with animals, I kind of see that rather than some of the stuff that goes on. But I will talk to you about that later. But with I keep looking at your TV, but because I'm talking about it, seeing it on the screen. But with this, I just felt a bit uncomfortable sometimes, because he did weird me out. Like if I was that teacher, I'd be like, can you put him somewhere else, because I am not dealing with this.
Yeah.
You know. But also in this film, which was brilliant, which I think is in a lot of his films, is his music.
The soundtrack's great.
The soundtrack was so good.
Give me examples, people.
Well, in this one, there was once where he's been rejected by Miss Cross, and it's the I Am Waiting song by the Rolling Stones, which is, you know, it kind of shows the way he's like waiting to be this person he's supposed to be. You know what I mean? And when Bloom was nothing but vengeance on his face with the Hugh song. What's it called? Quick One While He's Away, which is a song about infidelity and ultimate forgiveness. But they're like, I knew these songs. I didn't know what they were called, but I knew them. Yeah. And like, that's the thing. A lot of his songs were coming up, and I was like, I know the song. I didn't know the names. And I couldn't, you know, obviously some of them you knew who sang it because you know Mick Jagger's song Voice a Mile Off.
Yeah.
But the soundtrack was epic. It's a type of soundtrack that you would go and look for.
He does that a lot, actually. There's a song in this by Unit 4+2 called Concrete and Clay from the 60s, which it feels so adjunct to what's actually happening on the screen, but actually it's exactly the sort of thing Wes Anderson does in all of his films, and those soundtracks sort of typify him for things you might not have quite expected.
Yeah.
And let's just say the word quirky has been used about Wes Anderson more than enough, so we don't need to do it anymore.
It
is quirky.
I was watching him in a little interview thing with when people reunited for the film you're doing.
Yeah.
And you could see that he was a little bit, you know, with his Lord Farquhar hairstyle and, you know, sorry.
I've watched a lot of Shrek recently.
But yeah, no, music for me. I know, sorry.
I think she's overcompensating for something.
Music for me in films is huge. I think I've said that before. It plays a huge part for me in music and films. But yeah, so this one, that's one thing about this film that I think that was the best thing for me, and I did love Bill Murray's performance, and I think the acting was good because sometimes I watch films like I remember seeing American Psycho with Christian Bale. And I hated that film. I thought it was shit. But I thought the acting was out of this world. I thought Christian Bale was amazing. I thought it was a genius in that film. I thought it was brilliant. So while I didn't particularly enjoy the film, I actually really appreciated it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I have a theory about Wes Anderson films, which is...
You can tell us.
Okay, I won't keep it to myself. I think the first couple of Wes Anderson films you watch, you find it quite a difficult thing to engage with. Potentially different with one or two films, which are a little bit more, maybe mainstream or accessible. But I think I found that with a few Wes Anderson films. I was watching it because I was trying to impress a girl, and then what happened was I started to actually like the films, and then I went back and revisited them, and they felt very different because it felt like I was in this familiar Wes Anderson world all of a sudden, rather than someone trying to do anything real.
Maybe I should watch American Psycho again. Maybe I'll feel...
Or lots more Wes Anderson films.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I will watch some of them. No, I have watched quite a few of them. I have seen quite a few of them because I remember I really liked the Royal Tenenbaums. Why didn't I pick that? But no, I'm glad I watched it.
No, it's good. It's showing that, you know.
Yeah,
you can't,
I'm glad I watched it. But, you know, just wrapping this one up. It basically towards the end, like it kind of, like we've talked about how annoying and like quite a diva actually this guy is.
Touch the mic. Oh, somebody's doing something. Anyway, sorry, apology.
She's so bossy. I've got two bossy people here today.
Quiet, right?
I'll just see her. I'm the eldest one. You two shut up.
Elvis.
Eldest.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm Elvis. Yeah, but in the end, it actually gets quite nice because Max, in the end, he meets that another girl, and you know, he starts to then help Bloom out in the ways of love. It's like you said, he then is a bit more the mature one in the whole situation rather than, you know, Bill Murray, who's obviously a lot older than him. But I would recommend watching this. Mm-hmm. You may enjoy it. Like you two, you liked it, didn't you, Luke?
I did.
You liked it.
I like Rushmore, and it wasn't the first film I'd seen of Wes Anderson's. Maybe it helps for me to go back, having seen a few more before. But Bottle Rocket's an interesting one, which came before it as a sort of high speed. This is where you really get Wes Anderson's auteuriness, for want of a better word, starting to come through. It's that personal journey of someone who starts off fairly naive and following their journey, and that happens in so many of his films. Yeah,
this is very true. So, one to watch.
Yeah, I give it. I'm not trashing it. I just, you know, didn't. I appreciate it, but I didn't thoroughly like it. But I think that's because there were certain things in it that weirded me out.
But it was a good introduction to Wes Anderson.
Yeah, for me, yeah, I think it was, yeah.
Cool. Okay. So, am I doing the next one?
Yeah, I think you should go next, Harry.
Okay.
All right, Luke.
So, my choice is a personal favourite, and that is the Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. This was directed and co-produced by Wes Anderson, and was made in 2004. It was his fourth feature film, and he also co-wrote it with Noah Baumbach of the Squid and the Whale fame.
Is he the dad in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory?
No,
He's the little
he's a
fella.
Noah guy. I can't remember.
Oh, he's Noah as well, though, isn't he?
he's
Yeah,
Noah.
okay.
Noah Baumbach's.
Because I thought I'd seen Noah. He was in this one, the guy from Charlie and Chocolate Factory, wasn't
Are
he?
you sure it was?
Yeah,
He's a
okay.
good Australian actor. Apparently, they came up with the movie together in a cafe in Manhattan, and said they never actually looked at a computer whilst they put it together. They just put notes together and took elements from around them for
Old
the film.
school.
I love
I'm
that.
amazed that he owns a computer. There's a part of
Yeah,
me which
I
kind of
know.
hopes that Wes Anderson is still working up an old printing press or something for
Yeah.
his script. So.
And he sits there writing in his golden brown suit.
Of tweed.
Corduroy.
Yeah. So this film has been cited as the air quote black sheep end air quote.
Really?
Yeah.
You're big on your air quotes today, Harry.
I love my air quotes. And I've started to use them correctly, as someone pointed out. I used them
Were
incorrectly.
you like Joey?
I was.
Oh, I realised that she was looking at me, and it was me who did that, and I
It
forgot.
wasn't me.
And I forgot that I did that. But
You
yeah,
did.
it was me.
a particularly embarrassing moment in my life. Anyway, so
I'd forgotten it.
it's the black sheep of the Wes Anderson's filmography, and
Today.
today I stand here in defence of this film because for me it's personally the best, and for the ones that I've seen, I can't comment for the ones that I haven't. And I'll go in to explain why I think this. Starting off with, I'll go into that later. So it was the more expensive and audacious than his previous films, and unfortunately didn't do well at the box office, which I'm pretty.
That doesn't surprise me, even though I liked it, because sometimes I think these films are too weird for people.
I don't think the world was quite ready for
the world.
the world.
The world wasn't ready for him.
For this kind of movie,
Yeah.
and
I think it's a difficult sell, as you're about to find out when you give us a synopsis. Of
Yeah.
What happened.
it's not, it really because we know Wes Anderson to be sort of quirky, as we've said, artistic, kind of wacky, takes us into these sort of worlds, and this is definitely one of those films. And I don't think at that time, people were sort of on board with Anderson, so it was kind of an art experiment, and it's sold in the guise of a Hollywood movie, and it bombed, sadly. But since it's kind of become a cult classic, which is nice.
Yeah.
So to give you a synopsis, it follows the exploits of an eccentric, depressed and over-the-hill oceanographer, Steve Zissou, played by Bill Murray. He plans to exact revenge on the, air quote, jaguar shark, which he believes ate his partner Esteban. Who's the cinematographer on his documentaries, and whilst also seemingly mending broken aspects of his personal life. So the film follows Zissou as he begins to film a documentary about capturing the jaguar shark, and whilst doing that, he is what's the word? His son, who you think is his son, joins him.
I feel that's an air quotes moment for son.
Yes. Okay, and that's played by Owen Wilson, and other characters come on board. Literally to the Bellefonte, which is the boat.
Sea vessel.
Yeah.
Let's go with boat.
Okay, the boat, the sea vessel, whatever that they travel around the world on and record and etc. their documentaries, and it goes from there. There's just so many elements to this film, you can't say it all in one go.
That's true.
There's a wealth of A-list actors in this film, and they include Anderson regulars such as we said, Bill Murray, Willem Dafoe, which just tickles me.
I liked Willem Dafoe in this,
Yeah,
actually.
he's so...
It's so
He's
not
very
him.
good.
No, I know, this
It's not
is
what
I
you're
mean.
used to seeing, is it?
Same as the Grand Budapest Hotel, actually. Willem Dafoe in a Wes Anderson film is a real treat. He doesn't have a huge amount of screen time, but he does it so well. And he's really selfless with his performances. He knows that he's there to support what's going on around him. He's not taking a lead role in any of these, but he's just brilliant for the few minutes he's on screen.
Yeah, because in so many films he's this creepy, menacing character,
Yeah.
whereas especially in this movie he's actually
He's
quite
not.
endearing and cute, and it's just lovely. And yes, you're joined by another Anderson favourite, Owen Wilson / mate, and Jeff Goldblum.
And Angelica Houston's in it, and I know she's not
Goldblum.
a... I do like her. I love Jeff Goldblum.
I think we all love Jeff Goldblum.
I think everyone does.
No. Oh, I felt a backlash to him the other day. Having
Really?
this discussion in the office. Yeah, they were like, he's just a parody of himself these days. Sorry, you know who you are.
I think I know who they are. Not anymore.
I better not find out who they are.
So yeah,
Lorraine finds a way.
I do. I know people.
but he doesn't get much screen time in this either. But he's again,
I love
he's
Jeff
just ace in it.
Goldblum.
Yeah. Something I didn't know about this film is that it was predominantly filmed in Naples, Italy, and upon the second viewing, it kind of made sense that it was filmed on location. And they had issues filming it, which is a side note. It's overall predominantly a comedy, but it does have drama elements. And for me personally, when they hit hard. I sobbed in some parts of this.
There's some real touching moments in this film.
Yeah, it's lovely, and it's a bit of, well, no, I won't tell you what happens to a certain character, but it happens, and you're just like, no, literally.
Yeah, it hurt, and the ending of the film, again, no spoilers, but the ending of the film I found really quite touching.
Yes, I did.
When they're all sat there.
Yeah.
And the big thing comes
This
along.
is very subtle, isn't it? We're avoiding every conversation about it. But
No,
yes,
I
it's
thought
touching.
that was as well. I was
Yeah.
kind of like, oh.
Yeah. So in the dramatic elements of the movie, they sort of explore various forms of relationships and their issues. Again, familial kind of ones. You've got, platonic, romantic, familial, as I said. There's definitely a father-son.
As in every Wes Anderson film.
Yeah.
Wes, go and see a therapist.
I'll mention that when we talk about colour.
There's definitely a father-son issue going on in this film. You've got the character of Ned / Kingsley, played by Owen Wilson, who comes along and I didn't think this is too much of a spoiler, he says to Sisu, I think you're my dad, because he's got, a Kentucky accent.
Forrest Gump? I'm going Forrest Gump. What about you, Lorraine? Any guesses?
I think Owen Wilson in this character is just so lovely and gentle.
He is.
He does it in this. It's a southern.
Texan drawl,
He is
isn't it?
southern though.
Well, he's from Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's really got a lilt to it. It's
But that's the way a lot of them talk down there, because I've been there, so that's how they say it.
But then he's like this gentle, which is something I think you notice with all the characters. They're this sort of gentle, calm character, and then they just come out with some pounding sentences sometimes. Like Owen Wilson to Willem Dafoe's character is just like, Klaus, if you do that again, I'm going to knock your teeth out, or something like that. And you're just like, where the hell did that come from?
It's a bit of a sea metaphor, really, isn't it? It's so often that it's calm and these conversations go with it, but then you never know when it's going to turn stormy, and I think that's echoed in some of the actual shots as well.
That's deep.
like the sea.
Yeah, no, but something that I noticed the other day, which I have to mention now, talking about the father-son calm storm sort of thing, is that Steve is all like, he's kind of a bit sort of placid throughout the whole thing, but he's still feeling very sorry for himself, doesn't really seem to care about anybody. But then there's a bit where Owen Wilson is hit and dragged off by some pirates. It's not a spoiler. And he's just like, please don't hurt him. And you're just like, where the hell did that come from? You actually care about this guy. And it was a really nice moment. It's meant to be funny, but at the same time, it's a really touching moment. And I think in this film particularly, there's so many moments like that. And that's one of the reasons why I love it.
So you loved the film. What did you think in terms of the style and the cinematography, the music?
I think it's great. I think it was the first time where I've watched a Wes Anderson film, because I had seen parts of the Tenenbaums before it's in this, and I did sense it a bit, but in this it comes out with such exuberance, especially in the set design and the costume design. You've got the pastel blue and the stark of their outfits, which I just love that they're
The red
all,
hats.
Yeah, the red hats. They're all in these. They're meant to be a crew, but they're signified as a family as well, in the way that they're all sort of in similar clothing. But that comes out in that design, and I just think it's very clever, as well as being very pretty to look at.
Very colourful.
Yeah. So
The soundtrack's quite special as well.
I know you're desperate to get
I'm
to
desperate
this.
to talk about the soundtrack. You know I am.
Yeah, the soundtrack is lovely, and it's really interesting people's reaction to this. So the soundtrack consists of some actual scores for the movie by what's his name? Mother's Ball? Oh no, sorry, let me get to those notes. The soundtrack. All right, we'll get to the bit that you want to talk about. So it features Seu Jorge, which is a Brazilian musician, and he is massive over there, by the way.
Huge.
He sings Portuguese renditions of classic David Bowie tracks throughout this movie, which is, again, just lovely. I should just had that T-shirt made.
Yeah.
So, Luke, what do you love about the soundtrack?
I think it's saying something that David Bowie, or Bowie for me, just adores those versions of his songs. I think
Did he?
absolutely loved those versions.
Oh, wow,
And I think
I didn't know that.
at the Royal Albert Hall last year, Seu Jorge was invited to to perform these tracks as a sort of Bowie memorial. And I think it's telling that he is revered by the person who wrote these songs. I got to see him at the Sage in Gateshead, which is just this gorgeous
Did you
venue.
see Bowie, did you?
Seu Jorge,
Oh.
actually.
I'm impressed.
I was listening to David Bowie today, actually, while I was doing the gardening.
That's good.
And he just did acoustic versions of these songs, which wasn't why we were there, but they are phenomenal, his versions of it. And it takes it somewhere else to do a very acoustic version. Bearing in mind what Bowie's lyrics are, to not understand the lyrics because you're suddenly in Portuguese means that it's purely harmony and melody, and it absolutely works with this film. And Seu Jorge is a great actor as well. It's underrated. He's in City of God and in quite a few other films as well, so not that many people know him as the actor.
No, he's great in this, and he adds all those sort of delicate touches. Like you say, you're not following really what, not speaking Portuguese, what the lyrics are saying, but you don't need to know because it's nostalgic, but at the same time it's got its own sort of new gentle twang, and it just adds that new element to the film, I think.
It's a very nostalgic film.
It is. You don't know what's really interesting, and I think, again, you find this with a lot of Wes Anderson films, you're never really sure of what time period you're in.
Yeah, definitely.
It's because he's got this nostalgic element. He, takes music from past, sometimes present, and blends them all in, but it's never really said what year it is, but it's just, and you're kind of like, is this reality or not? And you totally, sidebar, get this in this film, especially with the fact that all the creative creatures are like stop motion and everything, and you're like, am I meant to be taking this seriously, or am I meant to,
I think even the sort of found footage almost elements to it, you get the sense it's on an old school video recorder, and it feels dated, but you can't place it.
No,
it's Jacques Cousteau, isn't it? That's who.
Jacques Cousteau. Yeah, honestly, when I was reading up on that, I was just like, that's the first thing I thought of. Phoebe. A lot of the influence for this film came from Wes Anderson's love of Jacques Cousteau documentaries, and I didn't know much about him, so I couldn't say, but what he does with it, I think, is kind of a nice homage to Cousteau. And I'm gonna take it back to the soundtrack again, because I have to mention this before I close up. But this song called "Ping Island / Lightning Strike Rescue Op." And
catchy name.
Yeah, it was created by the composer Mark Mothersbaugh, and it goes do 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 do
Is
do
that-
do 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 that bit.
I don't recognise it from back. Can you do a bit more?
No, what's the music when Bill Murray's kind of just...
Yeah, I love that. He's got the helmet on and he's explaining to
and he just starts kind of...
he just sort of moves.
There's this little
oh my
dancey
god,
thing.
that slays me every time I watch
Yeah,
that.
I thought that was hilarious.
So funny.
That was a typical Bill Murray dance move.
Is it? I don't know.
I've seen him kind of move like that before in... I think it was Ghostbusters 2. He kind of starts going like that, and in 1, I think. But in Ghostbusters 2, when the toaster gets some of the slime in it, and it starts dancing, and he starts dancing.
Well, I need to get back.
There's a bit of it in Groundhog Day where you get a bit of sense of.
Yeah, he kind of does a lot of... I think Bill Murray always does a little move. A little shuffle here and there.
I'd dance with Bill Murray.
I would too.
And I'd say oh no, I haven't. I want to cover some fun facts.
Fun facts.
Fun facts.
Fun facts.
Yeah.
Fun facts.
Exclamation point.
Okay, you're
God.
building this up now, like Mother.
Better. So the sound mixer in the film was the actual sound mixer for the film. I love that touch.
I like that.
I like that. Another thing was the jaguar shark was actually the largest stop motion puppet to be created, I imagine, at the time. Though I don't know if that fact is actually true, but I read it. And
Well, it said fun facts, so it must be.
Fun facts.
Yeah, so it must be.
For half the movie as well, Kate Blanchett's character, who I haven't really touched on, who's intriguing to me. Her character, I think Jane, was pregnant in the film, and for half of the film, the baby bump was actual baby, because Kate Blanchett was pregnant for half the film.
Oh.
Wow.
Nice. And there is a real Steve Zissou, but he's a lawyer elsewhere, and they had to put at the end of the film that he was someone real and it wasn't him.
That would have been funny.
No. I think that's wow.
I think they're fun facts. I'm going to get you. Yeah, they're fun.
Thanks.
And probably facts.
End.
The end. I feel like I'm going to go watch that film again.
Yeah, do it. It's nice.
Because I have seen it, but I feel like I want to go watch it again.
And do you have that tune in your head now?
If you come on this podcast, you have to sing. So you better have a song ready when you're talking about Fantastic Mr. Fox, which I'd like you to do now.
Straight in. Perfect. That was seamless. So Fantastic Mr. Fox came out in 2009, which feels like it's much more recent than that, but actually 2009.
Actually, yeah, that's only 10 years ago.
I was at uni when it came out, I remember.
Bloody hell.
Fun fact.
There you are.
Fun.
No, you've,
And that
you've
is a
ru-
fact.
You've ruined it. But I chose this partly because I do love Fantastic Mr. Fox. It's also quite timely with Isle of Dogs coming out because it is the precedent to that in terms of its visual style being a stop motion animation. So there's a bit to talk about there. But also, the reason you love films is the memories you associate with them. I was lucky enough to see a Wes Anderson all-nighter marathon at the Prince Charles in London, which is a great cinema, shows some brilliant films, and it's a good chance to get there if you can. And my friend Carl and I had watched about 7 Wes Anderson films in a row, and
Bloody hell.
we left after Fantastic Mr. Fox because it was 6 a.m. and we walked back to Brixton, and as we got off the bus in Brixton, an urban fox just walks across in front of us, and we both gave it the sign which you'll know from the end of the film.
Fist up
And
in the air.
I will never now forget that movie, watching it at that time of the morning and then seeing an urban fox out there. So I think I have a
That's
special association with this film for that reason. And being stop motion, it certainly felt different. And now Isle of Dogs, it feels like the preceded to it. But it also means you get Meryl Streep and George Clooney and other actors in who aren't in other Wes Anderson films. Potentially because it's time, I'm assuming, for voice actors. It might need slightly less time for them in the studios.
Yeah.
And he was able to do that. So therefore, it does feel a little bit different to previous Wes Anderson films, and yet still familiar when you start really drilling down into some of the techniques used.
I think they're very... Did you find it, like, very gamey? Sometimes I was watching it. It was also almost like when they were running, like someone was there with controls.
I get what you mean, actually, yeah.
You know,
Bit
when you watch
90s game consoles,
Yeah.
sort of
The way they
platform
move.
games.
Yeah,
Left
it was
and
like,
right, yeah.
I was like, this is like a game.
So the premise itself is very familiar to a lot of us. Anyone who's read Roald Dahl's Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Yes.
And it's quite a brave move to try and work with that source material and adapt it, which is what... you know what, hang on, this doesn't feel right. 2 seconds.
Oh my goodness.
So,
Why do I have to wear it?
Let's just explain. He has pulled out
a visual prop for an
visual
audio
prop.
medium.
Yeah. Well, I'll hold this and shake it now and again. Lorraine has some fox ears on, and I have a tail.
I feel like it's a much better setting now. I feel much more in it. Though.
It's a shame. Oh.
Now you can talk about what
Now I can
you really
talk
need
about
to talk
it.
about.
So Mr. and Mrs. Fox, which is Clooney and Streep, trigger a trap, get caught on a heist, and at that point she says that she is pregnant. And we fast forward 2 years later, and this heist fox thief has changed his lifestyle. He's now a newspaper journalist. They're living in a new home, and it all feels very much like they've chosen a slightly different life to they had before. Now, this hole that they live in now is very close to three farmers who will say very familiar if you know the books itself, which is Boggis and Bunce and Bean. Now, at this point, it diverts from the Roald Dahl source material, and we're introduced to Christopherson Silver Fox, which is a very Wes Anderson name, which is Mrs. Fox's nephew, who comes to join the family, shakes things up, particularly for Ash, their son.
Who I love.
And it gives us this very much of an outsider's viewpoint, and that's where it signifies this isn't the book you knew from a child.
Yeah.
However, you do actually get a little bit of that source material coming back in, where Mr. Fox goes back to his thieving ways. He goes to the free farmers to steal from them. And then eventually, as they find out what he's doing, they try and trap him, they shoot him, and his tail comes off, which is now what Harry is holding.
It's the original tail.
I wear it like a tie.
And I think that's what a lot of people feel is very familiar. What happens then is Ash and Christopherson go on a bit of a hunt to try and get this tail back from the farmers. And as they do so, they end up in a little bit of a scrape, that's fair to say. And Mr. Fox sets out to save them from their situation. And that's when it turns into something of a stop-motion heist movie.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel as familiar to that source material, but actually that balance, I think, is done quite well. I think taking something which is very important to a lot of people from their childhood and being able to adapt it must have been a very difficult decision to make.
Yeah.
But I think it actually pulls it off. And I won't spoil the ending, but it is a children's film, so it's not terrible.
I was a bit nervous about seeing this because I was, as many children are, a massive Roald Dahl fan. And Matilda was my favourite book of all time. And then they did that horrendous movie and it destroyed
Don't hold back, Harry.
It was, in my
She's on the
opinion.
fence.
But and then I loved Fantastic Mr. Fox. That was my runner-up, and I was like, oh no, they're gonna do it again. It's Americans, no offense, because in my head it was a British, kind of book. But I watched it and I loved it.
I thought it was very good.
Is it because it diverts enough from that source material?
I think it becomes its own, which I kind of disagree with, because at the same time it's like, well, you should have just, made up a new story and called it something else rather than leeching onto Roald Dahl. But at the same time, I'm happy with what he did, and I'm pleased with the movie. So yeah.
And I think it's one of those movies. I think the animation needs to be talked about. It is incredibly impressive. I know that we had a couple of people write in and say how much they enjoyed the animation. The rustling of the fur on the animals is done by... They just let the fingerprints of the animators make it rustle, and that's something we see in Isle of Dogs. It's just continued from Fantastic Mr. Fox.
That's done somewhere in the UK, isn't it? It's a studio in the UK.
I don't know, actually.
Yes.
There you are.
Fun fact.
Fun fact. But even just the cotton wool explosions.
Oh, I love those. Yeah.
It doesn't at any point try and fill in what you should see in a quote-unquote a normal cinematographic movie.
No.
It's playful, and I think that playfulness is something which works really well for it.
Yeah.
Even the fact that they say things that are swear words, but they use the word cuss constantly, and it's cute, and
so funny.
It's something which also is important. I think this film needs to be something which can be watched by children. It's Fantastic Mr. Fox, and I think therefore that decision is partly enforced upon them, but they do it in such an eloquent way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I've really, really enjoyed this film.
It's lovely.
I did like it.
I'm going to stop saying that.
My child liked it as well.
That's good.
She kept on going, Fox, Fox, when it ended. So that means she needs to watch it again.
And a shout out to Jarvis Cocker as well, who appears
Didn't that
in
look
Mrs.
so
Peaky.
much like him, though?
It was eerily Jarvis Cocker.
Yeah, I was like going, that's definitely just him. Yeah, no, it looks so much like him. But yeah.
And a really funky song which he plays as well, which I won't be singing. The colour palette's really nice as well.
It's like warm autumnal hues, isn't it?
It's really appropriate for the story itself, the fox, and it is an interesting one because you do still have those little bits of Wes Anderson, which is playing with perspective. The toy train that you see in Ash's bedroom is then used as a real train later, and there is still these symmetrical shots of things happening. There are still father issues. There is so much of it which still feels familiar, but it does feel like a departure from his previous stuff, and I think that's where it's so rewarding, particularly when you're watching an all-nighter marathon. It's nice to have a bit of a change of pace, actually.
Yeah. I don't know, I love this film, but I think some things that have come from certain discussions are his depictions of cultures. Like, the good guys are all American, the bad guys, are all limeys. So, then you've got the, is it a rat?
There is
French
the rat.
Yeah, things like that. But
Which is Willem Dafoe as well, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. But at the same time, it doesn't matter. He can get away with it because, again, it's in this reality that we, not sure of, and it's just played with as fun. It's poking fun.
And that's what
I
An
like
Auteur does, right? This is what
Yeah.
we talked about, or you talked about rather than me. I listened to Tim Burton. It is, on the face of every Wes Anderson film, it's surreal. If you describe what's happening and some of the things that happen within it, it is surreal. And yet it feels weirdly familiar when you're in that world, and it makes sense to what you see on the screen. And I think that's why you can sometimes get away with it, in that it's almost presented to you as this isn't reality. So the stereotypes you see aren't really what's there. You know that you're operating in some sort of alternate universe, and that's something which takes a lot of skill. It means that when you have these really gruesome or comical injuries, depending on which way you are inclined. Someone who likes Rob Zombie films, I'll say.
Maybe I do.
It's so to be able to do that, and there are, unfortunately, in a lot of Wes Anderson films, death of animals comes up a few times.
Yes, actually.
And actually, it doesn't necessarily always feel offensive. You can feel uncomfortable, but you don't walk out of the film saying how offended you were by it, because it's weird, because it's in Wes Anderson's world, and in that world, that sort of thing would happen. People suddenly run off shot quite a lot in Wes Anderson films, and it doesn't feel anywhere near as weird as it should.
I just wonder if this is a pattern or it happens now and again, but we're talking about the animals dying thing. It's like there are some magnificent, and I use that word, creatures that appear, such as the jaguar shark and the wolf, and they are sort of revered and they're left alone in the end.
Oh, that wolf was lovely.
I just wonder what that's about.
That's a good question.
Are there any other characters like that in any of his other films that there's this,
I think of the wolf bit. I thought was amazing.
It was powerful, wasn't it? For a
Yeah.
little animation, not a little animation, but
It was really nice.
yeah. But it was the same with the jaguar shark moment in
was.
the Life of the Zoo. I just wonder if that's a running theme or if he'll explore that. Is there anything like that in the Isle of Dogs?
No spoilers. No, I don't think there's anything quite like that, but there is a wonderful moment in Isle of Dogs where you see some creature on the horizon on top of a junkyard, and if you've watched Fantastic Mr. Fox, you go, oh, that's for us. He's doing the wolf.
Oh,
And so
that's cool.
And so there's a little bit of a moment like that, but I don't think it's quite the same in that sense. I don't think there is that character which is revered in that way.
Okay, interesting. It's a lovely film. I do like that, and I could just go back to that film. My personal favourite character is actually Mr. Fox, and
I love George Clooney in that.
Yeah.
Just those mannerisms.
Sorry, do you think it was set in the 70s? It was very 70-esque.
I think that just comes back to that.
Yeah, what you were saying.
Yeah,
I felt like it was set in the 70s, but I didn't know.
I don't. Yeah, you just don't know with him, do you? Doesn't need to be. Also, something that's just come to Jarvis Cocker thing. He's got a thing for like British music, hasn't he?
He does, definitely.
And that's just something that keeps.
The Stones and the Who in Rushmore.
I think Steve Zissou was the only film that he doesn't play the Rolling Stones in, of his earlier films or something. Fun fact.
No, I think he does. And I think that's, if you're trying to build a world where you're not sure what's real, or you're not sure how much you should see it as realism, one of the good ways to do that is to not really give people a timestamp in which they can associate it to. Have you seen the horror film It Follows?
No.
It's very deliberate in terms of they'll be using phones from the 90s, and yet there'll be a 60s record player, and you're never meant to know what time this is set, and it changes seasons throughout this film. It's constantly messing around with your head.
That's interesting.
And you almost don't notice it until afterwards when someone says, when was that set? And you've got no idea.
Yeah.
And actually, it's very deliberate. I think Wes Anderson does a little bit of that in his films. I think he keeps you off guard by not allowing you to associate it with this is this place at this time.
Yeah.
I think potentially the only place where that isn't true is maybe something like the Royal Tenenbaums, where I think you do have a little bit of place and time.
Yeah.
Because New York plays such an important role in the film.
Oh. I need to watch that again. I need to watch it.
Of course, your man's in it. What's his name? Gene Hackman. Oh. I love Gene Hackman. Such a good actor.
It's very good. So,
that was our Wes Anderson movies. Are we happy?
I'm happy with that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Right. So, thank you to everyone who emailed us in to tell us your Wes Anderson movie. Maybe your thoughts have changed after hearing us talk about our 3 favourite Wes Anderson movies? We don't know, but thanks. So, moving on.
Flashback Film Club. Hey, you guys!
Yeah, the Goonies.
Oh,
I'm excited about this.
I love the Goonies.
We can tell that Luke looks awfully pained right now.
I'm on the fence about
I
this.
love the bloody Goonies. I think it's one of the best films that come out of the 80s.
It's
1985.
It's a good family flashback sort of
Oh
film,
god,
isn't it?
yeah. Like I'd definitely show my kid this film, and she better like it.
I think the problem I have with it is, so spoiler, I like it, I don't love it, and I think that might be because I came to it too late. I didn't see this until I was at university. I know. Yes, but in the Northeast, video didn't get to us until I was at university. No, I think that is potentially what's missing for me, is that a lot of films I love from my childhood, I watched them first as a child, got that joy, and then when you revisit it, you get overwhelmed with this nostalgic, I remember what it was like to have that freedom and everything else.
Because I watched this in the 80s.
Yeah.
When it came out. Yeah, I know Harry.
What were they like?
80s were great. I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
So before we get into this, let's give you a bit of a description about the... Sorry, I'm waving the foxtail
No,
around.
still ears on. Wow.
Let's tell you a bit about the movie. I'm sure you know, but we should do this anyway, for those that might not have. So, Lorraine, go on.
As we said, it's a film from 1985, directed by Richard Donner and Spielberg. Spielberg did direct part of it. He directed the scene where they're underneath and they're banging on the pipes.
Yeah.
Yep.
That and the splishing well scene.
Oh.
So he did direct a little bit of it.
Oh.
But for those of you who don't know about this film, who haven't come to it yet because you haven't hit university when, like Luke did, to actually get around to watching it, it's basically about a bunch of kids who are known as the Goonies, and they go in search of treasure aboard this. They're looking for a pirate ship from a pirate called One-Eyed Willie, which I thought was really funny when they said it to Josh Brolin in The Avengers.
Yeah.
Yes, that was a really nice touch.
So they're trying to get the money basically to save where they live, the Goondocks, which is in Astoria, Oregon, where they live. And so the whole thing is based on this big, massive, amazing adventure that we all wanted to do when we watched it, not Luke. Going down water slides and tunnels, kissing Corey Feldman.
Oh, yeah, I love that. Yeah.
I wanted to do that.
But I did always think there's a bit of an age gap, so is that not a bit weird?
And apparently he went up for that role with Corey Haim, because remember the two Coreys were massive back then, and that's how they met, and he got it.
All right.
Fun fact. But it also stars Sean Astin, who you might know as Samwise Gamgee from The Lord of the Rings.
Mr. Frodo.
Josh Brolin, who has grown up very well into a
He's become quite powerful.
beautiful looking man.
Do you think?
Oh my god, he's gorgeous.
I think he's hot as the Big Brother. I don't think he's hot now.
No, he is divine.
He's got a great voice.
No.
There
Yes.
is a little bit of internet culture which thinks that his character in Avengers may well be a bit of a stud. A few people attracted to it.
No, I wasn't attracted to Thanos. I'm attracted to Josh.
Okay.
So if he was to turn up in the suit,
He's got a good
I probably
smirk.
would. No, he's gorgeous. So it's basically all about, Sean and Josh are brothers, and basically Josh goes with him to kind of keep an eye on him, so to speak. And you've got a little kind of James Bond-esque character in there in the forms of Data, who does all these little tricks and actually mentions James Bond.
Well, he's like Q, isn't he?
Sorry, banging on the table, don't I? But yeah, no, it's a really M.
No,
it's
No,
Q
Q's
you're
the
talking
one that
about.
makes all the toys.
Data.
Played by Paddington
Yeah.
Bear.
Oh yeah, Ben Wish.
But yeah, so it's just a fun-filled family film with lots of adventure, and
I think for me, and I think for a lot of kids now, it's like a kid's Indiana Jones, isn't it?
yeah,
And I loved that because it is the epitome of adventure.
yeah.
And
I think that opening scene, that jailbreak, and then as it goes through the town, is potentially the most 80s few minutes of cinema there is. I think it captures that opening scene of Back to the Future, where there's so much of it which feels so painfully 80s in both a very good way and also
painfully.
there's a couple of moments which I think I would say.
There's
and
nothing painful about the 80s. Maybe the clothes, but that's about it.
I love the use of Cyndi Lauper in this. Good enough
Oh, yeah.
for me.
Good luck. Yeah.
Good enough.
Yeah. Sorry.
This is beautiful.
Told you
I
we
think
were
Harry's using a foxtail as a fake mic now as well, which is the best
I
part.
can't stop fiddling with it. Sorry. Again, something that I have thought about since as now as a grown up, but watching it, is that I empathise with Mikey as the little sibling who's not taken seriously, because that was me. There's quite a big age gap between my brother and sister, and for when I was the little kid, it would always be like, yeah, Harry, whatever, and I'd be like, just like him, and I always tried to seek adventure. Didn't have anything like this. I mean, maybe I did, but. Hi, this is Harry just cutting in. I just need to let you know that from now on the sound quality does go a little bit awry and isn't at its usual best because we had some technical issues which I have tried to fix, but unfortunately I just can't get it quite there. So, moving on, the content's still good, so continue to listen and enjoy. And I think that's what's nice about the film. It does have... There are those characters. There's a variety of characters in there.
Someone can relate probably to some of them. Everyone can kind of pick one out. That I don't know who I'd relate to in it, to be honest with you.
There were elements of mouth that I relate to, like when it's more in my teens, I was kind of like the gobby, sarcastic, Chandler-esque one.
Yeah.
In your teens?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think Mouth is that character, isn't he? And there are like those elements to him that I relate to.
Apparently he was called Mouth because you remember when they were pulling all the things out?
Oh,
That's when he got it, because of how much could fit into his mouth.
Oh, he actually got all that? Was in like a spit?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah. Apparently. Fun fact. But that's the only problem with these facts. You don't know if they're true or not, because obviously you just read them online. So, but that would make sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
That would make sense. I like that.
Yeah, but also there is an actual Goonies Day. Yeah, okay. I think it's the 7th of June in my page keeps flicking up. In the 7th of June in Astoria, Oregon, there is a Goonies Day. The mayor.
That's cool.
That is quite cool.
That is very cool.
Better or worse than Groundhog Day?
Is that even a question? Better. Goonies is actually it would probably up there be in one of my top 20.
They would just eat Baby Ruth bars. And
Oh, I love Sloth in this though.
He just made me think Baby Ruth.
It's funny when you see him though as not Sloth.
I've never seen the actor.
No, he was an NFL player, and apparently he was had a way with the ladies.
Oh really?
He's quite a handsome man actually. You know what I mean? He wouldn't. He the opposite of Sloth, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But obviously he's made to feel that way. No, when you see him without all the thing on, it's they did 5 hours I think it took them each day to put that.
Mind you, that's nothing compared to what some of them sit through now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think a lot of the films in the 80s, there was this elsewareness about so many characters in what felt quite normal and and then there would be a couple of Labyrinth being something where you just think how much the makeup and the prosthetics must go into certain films.
I love that film, Labyrinth. That's a great film. But yeah, no, definitely a childhood favourite, although Luke didn't see it as a childhood favourite.
I didn't see it as a child, so that's possibly why.
A 20-something favourite.
I think it was possibly 1920, somewhere in there, yeah. Somewhere in there, yeah.
I see, looking at our notes, that you've got some fun facts about this as well.
Well, I've said some of them. Oh, one of them was the ship. Because when they go down to the ship and they go down that massive slide.
Yeah.
And, of course, everybody that sees that, whether you're 19, wants to do it. Do you know what I mean? You did. I did. Yeah, exactly. We all love a good water slide. So he never showed them the ship. Donor never showed them the ship. So that basically when they all jumped out and saw it, the finished product that's what they saw the first time. Okay. So there was because that's what he wanted to get. Well, because I think it's good when you do stuff like that in films, because I think some things needs that first response, because we all see stuff every now and again, you're like, oh, the second time you're not as, and you have to try and act shocked.
Yeah,
you can always tell when someone's putting it on, but I think that's good that they did that with them in it. But do
you think there's some John Hughes elements to this film?
I think with the whole Andy and kind of Mikey and what was her name, the other girl's name? Martha Plimpton's character. Steph.
Okay.
Was it Steph? Steph, yeah, and Mouth, and so yeah, the little kind of like that whole love kind of stories. Yeah, that go on. And then obviously she had the boyfriend, because it was quite, because you had Andy who kissed Mikey but fancied the brother Josh Brolin, whose name I can't remember, and then was seeing the posh rich guy. Do you remember the jacket? You know, one of the guy that shouts down, "Andy, you Goonie." So yeah, that was very John Hughes-esque.
Yeah. Well, I think that she
Pretty in Pink.
she's a whole cheerleader, and then her friends, not so attractive, but more interesting one. Yeah. In my opinion.
I think there's a John Hughes element to quite a lot of 80s movies, which is when young people are defined by one characteristic, like they are quite often in this film. But actually, they are much more deep than that characteristic, and that's what you learn by the end of it, is that they have so much more in common. The Breakfast Club being the most obvious example of that. But it is very much people are viewed from the parents, from the outside, as being, you are this one thing.
Yeah.
But together they realise that they are so much more than that.
There's more to it.
That's deep. Again. Yeah. I love that.
That's what Luke's here for, the deep stuff. We're just like, it's amazing, they're on a slide.
No. Well, I think overall positive, even,
No, I like it. Like I say, I like it. I just don't have that childhood attachment to it, which films like Mighty Ducks films for me, Cool Runnings, I saw those as a child, and when you watch them now, you are taken back, and I don't have that with Goonies, and maybe it's that attachment, so maybe it's difficult.
Part of it.
Fair enough. But top notch. Go and check it out if you haven't seen it before.
Definitely go check it out. And watch it with your kids if you have any.
Introduce to the kids.
Or watch it by yourself.
Or babysit someone who would desperately like a night out and watch it with them.
Yeah, bring that over. I definitely like it.
And this is where technology fails us. So I'm going to give the outro all by myself. Thank you to Luke for joining us for this episode. We really enjoyed talking about Wes Anderson movies with you, and hope to have you back on the show in the future. For the next episode, episode 9, myself and Lorraine will be discussing Tom Hanks movies. Oh yeah. The good ones, the bad ones, and also giving you a little bit of insight into the man himself. And we just want to say thanks for listening, and if you're interested in finding out who we are as your hosts, I'm Tales of Peck on Instagram, WordPress and Twitter, and I kind of write some travel stuff. And Lorraine writes a great parenting blog called Mums Who Wing It. Or Mum's Winging It, sorry. And that is on WordPress, Instagram and Twitter, so go check us out. Thanks for listening. Bye.